No, you don't. You need to know what adds.
All right, let's get started here. We can put this toast debate on hold. So, the next chapter that we're going to start taking a look at is all about triangles. This first section is just about angles in triangles and angles outside of triangles. Right? As we progress through this chapter, we will start getting into more proofs. Okay? But I think that these proofs are going to be a little bit easier than the proofs that we looked at before. Okay, so the first idea on the front of the paper is just that all three angles inside of a triangle always have to add to 180. Okay, that's always true, no matter what. So, in something like this, right, we can call this missing angle x, right, or we can just leave it as the measure of angle t. And when we set up an equation to solve, right, we're just going to say, well, angle r is 25 degrees plus angle s is 35 degrees plus we can call the measure of angle t x, or we can just leave it as the measure of angle t. Okay. Add these two together. Subtract the 60 over. We get that missing angle is 120. Okay, now obviously for something this simple, where we just have a missing angle, we could have just said, well, it's going to be 180 minus 25 minus 35 to get that angle. Right? But we're going to get into problems where, this is an entire expression, or we have expressions for all three angles. So we do want to get in the habit of writing it out in an equation like this. Okay? So how about in example 2 here? We've got three missing angles. How can I find any of these angles? Jess? Yeah, so we could say that we know these three angles will add to 180. So 180 minus 90 minus 58. What does that give me? 32? Roxy? Well, it kind of looks like they are, but we don't know that for sure. We're not told that anywhere, right? I mean, if we had markings in here, like this, that told us those two angles were the same, then we could do that. But in this case, we don't know for sure that those two angles are the same. These two angles are vertical. Yeah. So these two we know for sure have to be the same. So angle 2 would also be 32 degrees. Then I know that these three angles will have to add to 180. So I can take 180 minus 108 minus 32 and get that this one would be 40. Alright, so we have to be careful. Right? We can only use information that we know for sure. Okay? Even though these two angles look like they might be about the same, we can't assume that. Okay? Questions? Right. Why don't you guys jump down here and take a look at these ones. Say that again? Well, so far, yeah, probably. So, what is this number? The first part is
Everybody says that.
I think it's a 66 and a 58.
Jordan's trying to steal him, Matthew's trying to steal him, Danny's trying to steal him, Evan's trying to steal him. Ooh, well, you're gonna try and steal him. Everybody's trying to steal my friend.
Do we?
For 3 here, this is my implication. Joe.
Oh yeah.
Hold on to.
Those are the 50.
I think it's
66.
58. Yeah.
58.
Wait, which problem?
This one.
Yeah, 66 and 50.
Whoa. Whoa. Alright.
I think it's a 66, yeah. Five as well.
Yes, I did. I just look up right. Oh. I had to get a calculator.
The vertical still applies to this, right?
Kind of fast.
This outside one,
Okay, shut up.
This is you started.
Shut up. Is this one any harder?
This here doesn't make any sense.
Well,
But this little paragraph here doesn't make any sense.
no, it doesn't.
Long story short, because considering 1 equals a by here, all you have to do is so here is 1 equals x y.
Isn't this what?
So you see these measures here.
Yeah.
These two measures here.
65 and 50 equal, let's see.
They equal 1.
60. What is it?
Did we get these answers here?
I'm probably.
What's that?
Number 4, 66 is a 56.
I think it's a 66. Do we have any questions on these?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Before we move on to the back, I'm going to make up a problem here. What if I give you something like, about something like this? How would I solve for x?
X plus 10 plus 2x minus 20.
Plus 20.
Plus 10.
Sorry.
Minus, equals 180.
Yeah. Right? Just add them all together. Set that equal to 180. Right? So I would combine all my like terms. We get 4x plus 30 equals 180. Divide by 4. And that doesn't come out nicely. Is that going to be 37 and a half?
Can you see my pen under the
Okay.
couch?
So this
See my
this
pen
idea,
under the couch.
okay, this idea we will use for guys. This idea we will use for the rest of the year, pretty much. Okay, the idea that all three angles in a triangle add to 180. Okay? So then on the back we have another similar idea. Okay, this one is called the exterior angle theorem. This one just says that any two interior angles have to be equal to the measure of an exterior angle. So an exterior angle is just if I were to extend the side of one of the triangles, and it creates an angle outside of the triangle with one of the sides. Okay, that's an exterior angle. So what we're saying is if I add the two angles together that aren't right next to that angle, it has to equal the exterior angle. Okay, so for example, right, if I say that this angle is 50 and this angle is 60, well, what would this measure inside of the triangle have to be? On the inside, yeah. 7, right? Because 180 minus 50 minus 60 would get me 70. Well, now, these two angles have to add to 180, right? Because they're a linear pair. So if I take 180 minus 70, I get that this is 110. Well, it's the same measure as these two put together. Okay, that's the idea here. So there are actually two ways that we can approach problems like this. Right? We could either say, well, I know this exterior angle has to equal the sum of these two angles. Or we could just say, well, if I find this angle, then these two angles have to add to 180. Okay? So for this first one, we could just add these together and say that this exterior angle would be 140. Okay? Or we could say, well, if I take 180 minus 80 minus 60, I get that this angle is 40. And these two have to add to 180. So 180 minus 40 is 140. Okay? In example 2, okay, again, we could say that these two interior angles would have to add up to the non-adjacent exterior angle, or we could find this angle and say these three would have to add to 180. Okay, either way. If we use this exterior angle idea, we would just say x plus 55 equals the exterior angle of 78. Okay, then subtract the 55 over. We get x equals 23. Okay. Or we could have said, well, if this angle is 78, this one would be 180 minus 78, so 102. Then we could have set it up as x plus 55 plus 102 equals 180. Okay, so if you forget the exterior angle theorem at some point, you can always just use the fact that these are a linear pair, and then triangle adds to 180. Right? Questions on this idea? All right, let's take a few minutes, try the exercises down below.
What the heck is 30?
So 260.
Oh, Jimmy.
260. And then
Isn't red cheese? Yeah.
Yeah, but then how do you know putting a toaster up in there? Does it cook it? Yes.
It toasts it.
Why
Well,
is
it's
it
more like
so
toast.
It does both. It cooks and toasts.
You know, like cooking means mixing it and incorporating. And whenever you put it in a toaster, there's nothing being mixed into the bread. No, the heat is just being absorbed.
Oh, the heat reaction isn't.
I don't know if it's the form of like you can, but like heat just moves back. There's a chemical reaction.
Just write it on the paper. Put it outside my food and
Because if you use the
But
fat
it's called
light,
toast.
Facts of life.
Exactly.
the fact that it's not writing. Put it in your food. I'm gone.
yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Greg can be all.
What are these arrows mean? I feel like they have nothing to do with it. But what are they? Nothing to do.
Kind because it means you can do the thing that I said.
What did you do?
I made it for the 812 or 16.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna guess and say that they were. Wait, where's the line that it goes out?
Listen, I'll just prove you the last guy.
So then these two are
You're
the
not
pair.
What is 180 minus 36?
Then
Now.
also be
Wait,
180 minus 36.
why would you do that?
Okay,
Together,
shut
that's
up,
seven-
shut
It's
up.
literally 71.
What number are y'all on? Okay.
I don't know.
It is not 71.
35 was 36 was 71.
Oh,
I thought that was what you were asking.
what'd you give it? No, I was gonna say 71 is not the answer because that is bigger than 90 degrees.
You're all beautiful and toasted. Okay, bye.
Cooking as well. Yeah, what if it literally says cook in there. Wait a second. Like, you guys said it now?
Yeah, but I'm bored. I'm just gonna argue about
Mr.
Fach, what is your opinion on this?
You can't compress.
How does that work though? Because this angle is definitely bigger than 90 degrees.
No, these two are 71. Angle 1 is 190 degrees.
Wait, did one V be 190 degrees because it's a vertical angle?
You're just finding the number.
Wait, was it? What the?
How do you find 2?
Let's take this is a rocket science.
Well, I just made some posts.
Wait, then what's the point of having this then? That's not an
Oh my god, you're so right.
that's not an exterior angle then.
No, okay, no.
Alright,
We have to use it to
we
get
about done?
We don't.
You're
So you can look up here at the answers. For which one? This one?
It's too early.
So I think X would be 25. Then when you plug it back in,
She was
find
really
out
good
that
there.
angle is 50.
It makes more sense.
What can 180 minus 145?
Yeah,
What's 130 divided by 2?
Alright, any questions on any of these problems here?
How is that 50?
That's a number 3 on the map.